Welcome, dear friend, to this quiet corner we have prepared for you. Thank you with all our hearts for choosing to rest your mind here with us for a while. It is our fondest hope that this story will be a gentle companion for you, a soft and steady hand to hold as you journey toward the peaceful shores of sleep, helping you to drift away with a feeling of profound ease. If, as our tale unfolds, you find a measure of comfort within its quiet words, we would be so grateful if you would, just before you set your device aside, show your appreciation by liking this story and subscribing to our channel. Perhaps even leaving a kind comment to help us share this piece with others. Before we step onto the soft moss of the sanctuaries, a place where warm stones hum a deep and ancient lullaby, we shall first take a moment to quiet our own breath. Now, let us find our own sanctuary of comfort. Settle into your bed as if you are a wearied traveler who has at last found the perfect place to rest. Feel the gentle weight of your blankets, a comforting presence that promises safety and warmth, and let your pillow cradle your head, a soft cloud to receive all your cares. This time is a gift you give to yourself, a quiet moment at the end of the day where all the world's hustle and hurry can be left at the door. Allow your body to feel utterly supported, letting go into the softness beneath you, and invite a deep and peaceful calm to settle in your heart, as pervasive and gentle as the valley's soft, still air. Let us breathe together now, a slow and easy rhythm like the gentle pulsing of the Somnus Flora. Draw in a long, soft breath through your nose, feeling the air fill you with a clean and quiet energy. Then release it with a slow, contented sigh, as if you're letting go of the day itself. With each peaceful breath, you might imagine your body growing heavier in the most pleasant way, sinking ever more deeply into comfort and rest. Picture the warm, milky light of the magical flowers casting a gentle glow, and feel the soothing, deep hum of the resonant stones, a vibration that encourages every muscle to soften and release any tension it might be holding. Should your thoughts begin to wander like little lost moths fluttering in the gloaming, that is perfectly all right. There is no need to be concerned. Simply notice them with a gentle kindness, and then guide your attention back to the steady, peaceful rhythm of your breath or to the quiet sound of my voice. Your only task now is to listen and to let go. There is nothing more to do, nothing to solve. Allow the story to be a gentle vessel, ready to carry you across the calm waters into the deep and restorative sleep that you so richly deserve. Now, let us begin our quiet journey into the heart of the sanctuaries of deepest rest. Chapter 1. The Pavilion of Soft Echoes. It is a curious thing how one knows they have arrived at a place they have only ever sought and thought. For Phelan, It was not a gate or a signpost that marked his passage, but rather a change in the quality of the air itself. One moment, the path beneath his feet was common earth, attended by the familiar chatter of unseen insects and the rush of a distant wind. The next, a profound and welcoming hush fell over everything, a silence so complete and yet so full of peace that he knew with a certainty that settled deep in his bones that he had stepped across the threshold into the sanctuaries of deepest rest. The world he had left behind did not so much vanish as it did gently dissolve, like sugar in warm water. The path under his worn boots softened, becoming a carpet of thick, dark moss that seemed to absorb the sound of his footsteps, leaving only a soft impression behind. All around him, great broad-leafed trees of a kind he had never seen before formed a high canopy that diffused the afternoon light into a gentle silvery green luminescence. Their leaves, the size of platters, and the texture of worn velvet shifted not with a rustle, but with a slow sighing whisper that was more a feeling than a sound. His attention, no longer pulled in a dozen directions by the clamor of the outside, began to notice the smaller, gentler sounds that composed the sanctuary's unique symphony. There was the sound of water, not a running brook, but a slow, melodic dripping, as if from a single leaf into a hidden pool, each drop falling with a soft, resonant plink that seemed to measure the slow passage of peaceful time. Farther off, a current of air would occasionally move through a cluster of hollow stones, producing a low, flute-like sigh that would hang in the air for a moment before fading into the profound quiet. Following the path as it curved gently inward, Phelan came upon a simple open-air pavilion. It was crafted from a pale, smooth wood that seemed to glow with a faint warmth of its own, its beams polished by time and touch to the soft sheen of a river stone. There was no furniture within, only the clean, smooth floor and a low, rounded wall on one side, just high enough to lean against. The air inside felt even stiller, carrying the clean, grounding scent of wood, damp earth, and something else, something faintly sweet, like rain on dry dust. He stepped inside, his boots making no sound on the wooden floor, and lowered himself to sit with his back against the low wall. He did not mean to meditate or to think on anything in particular. He simply sat. He felt the solid, comforting press of the polished wood against his spine, and he listened. He listened to the gentle drop of water, the sigh of the wind stones, and the soft whisper of the great leaves overhead. It was a music made of quietude, a layered silence that began to gently unravel the tight knots of weariness he had carried for so long. Closing his eyes, Phelan focused on the sensation of his own breathing, which already seemed to have slowed to match the unhurried pace of this place. He drew in the cool, clean air, And as he exhaled, he imagined he was releasing not just air, but a fine gray dust of old worries and hurried thoughts. With each breath, the feeling grew, a sense of inner space expanding, of a great and gentle quiet filling him from the inside out. His shoulders, which he hadn't realized were held so tightly, began to soften and drop. The world of clocks and calendars, of destinations and deadlines, felt 1,000 miles away. A half-remembered story from another life. Here, time was not a line to be followed, but a space to be inhabited. The sun's slow descent, marked only by the shifting angle of the soft light filtering through the canopy, was the only measure of its passing. A small, contented sigh escaped Phelan's lips, a sound so quiet it was immediately welcomed into the pavilion's gentle symphony of echoes. He did not know how long he sat there, held in the pavilion's serene embrace. It may have been minutes, or it may have been an hour. It did not seem to matter. What mattered was the feeling, a sense of profound arrival, not just at a place, but at a state of being. The first sanctuary had offered its gift, the deep, restorative peace that can only be found not in the absence of sound, but in the presence of a truly gentle quiet. He felt the first layer of his exhaustion simply fall away, leaving behind a clean, calm stillness. Chapter 2. The Garden of Yielding Moss. A new path seemed to present itself, not by any clear design, but as if the moss itself had decided to thin in one direction, forming a soft invitation onward. Phelan rose, feeling a surprising lightness in his limbs, and followed the gentle suggestion. The air grew warmer here, and the ground became a truly astonishing carpet of deep, vibrant green moss, so thick and springy that each footstep felt cushioned and utterly silent. This, he sensed, was a place dedicated to the quiet joy of touch. It was here that he first saw another soul, an old man with a kind face etched with the gentle lines of 1,000 peaceful seasons, was tending to a patch of the moss with a soft brush made of reeds. He wore a simple, loose-fitting robes, the color of dried lavender, and moved with a slow, deliberate grace that seemed perfectly in tune with his surroundings. This, Phelan knew at once, must be Oren, the caretaker he had heard whispers of. Oren looked up as Phelan approached, and a small, warm smile touched his lips, a greeting that needed no words. Oren turned and walked to a low stone table, upon which sat a simple ceramic teapot, a faint wisp of steam curling from its spout. He poured the warm, amber-colored liquid into a handleless cup, the clay of which was a beautiful earthy red, and held it out to Phelan. The cup was wonderfully warm, its unglazed surface feeling smooth and solid in Phelan's hands. He took a sip. The tea was subtly spiced with something like cinnamon and dried petals, a comforting warmth that spread from his chest all through his body. They stood for a moment in companionable silence, a shared appreciation for the simple, profound pleasure of a warm drink in a peaceful place. Phelan's gaze was drawn to a series of large, dark stones dotted throughout the mossy garden. They were almost perfectly smooth, like giant pebbles worn down by a gentle, ageless river, and they seemed to radiate a faint, pleasant warmth. He felt an urge to touch one, and as Oren gave a small, encouraging nod, he knelt by the nearest one. It was the size of a large cushion, its surface a deep, polished black gray that felt wonderfully sleek and cool at first, before a deeper warmth began to seep through. He rested his palm flat against its surface, and then he felt it. It was not a sound that reached his ears, but a vibration that entered directly through his skin, a low, steady hum, as deep and resonant as the purr of some great, contented creature. The vibration traveled up his arm, into his shoulder, and seemed to settle deep within his chest, a gentle internal lullaby that loosened muscles he hadn't even known tense. It was the most profoundly relaxing sensation he had ever experienced. He spent what felt like a long, blissful time just kneeling there, his hand resting on the resonant stone, feeling its peaceful song hum through his entire being. He shifted his position, resting his cheek against the warm, smooth surface, closing his eyes and letting the gentle vibration soothe away the last vestiges of his inner disquiet. The world simplified into this one perfect sensation, the warmth of the stone, its deep and steady hum, and the soft, yielding cushion of the moss beneath his knees. Oren moved quietly about the garden, his presence a silent, reassuring constant. He did not speak, but his every action was a lesson in gentle mindfulness, from the way he carefully trimmed a single errant leaf to the soft swish of his broom as he swept fallen petals from a stone path. It was a communication of pure serenity, a demonstration that peace could be found in the simplest and most deliberate of actions, a truth that settled over Phelan as gently as a soft blanket. When at last Phelan drew his hand away from the stone, a pleasant warmth lingered in his palm, and the deep hum seemed to echo softly within him. He felt grounded, solid, and wonderfully calm. The tea, the yielding moss, the deep song of the stone, and the quiet kindness of the caretaker had worked their gentle magic. The second sanctuary had layered its gift of texture and warmth atop the first one's gift of quiet, drawing him ever deeper into a state of profound and simple contentment. Chapter 3. The Dell of Somnus, Flora. A new scent began to weave itself into the clean air of the garden, a fragrance so faint and yet so alluring that it was impossible to ignore. It was a clean, sweet smell, like honeyed milk and cool night air, and it seemed to pull Phelan gently forward down another winding path. This one led him downward into a small sheltered dell, and as he entered the hollow, the scent grew stronger, wrapping around him like a soft, invisible shawl. He had arrived in the sanctuary of scent and sight. The dell was filled with the most extraordinary plants. They were not tall, but grew in low, wide clusters, with large, waxy, bell-shaped flowers, the color of heavy cream. During the day, their petals remained tightly furled, but as the sky above the canopy began to deepen from soft blue to a gentle violet, a slow and wondrous transformation began. One by one, the Somnus Flora began to unfurl their thick, perfect petals. It was a silent, languid movement, a slow-motion dance of blooming. As each flower opened, two miracles occurred. The first was the source of the beautiful fragrance, which now filled the dell with its calming, sweet perfume, a scent that seemed to encourage the very air in one's lungs to slow down. The second was a soft, milky white light that began to emanate from the heart of each blossom. It was not bright light, but a gentle internal luminescence that waxed and waned in a slow, hypnotic rhythm, like a field of softly breathing stars. Phelan found a spot on a bank of soft, dry moss at the edge of the dell and simply sat to watch. The entire hollow was now filled with the gentle, pulsing glow of the flora. The soft light cast no harsh shadows, instead creating a world of soft edges and shifting milky patterns on the ground and on the broad leaves of the trees. It was a light that did not demand to be looked at, but rather invited quiet observation, a visual lullaby that was profoundly soothing to the eyes. He lay back on the moss, his head pillowed on his arms, and gazed up at the gentle constellation of glowing flowers. He inhaled their clean, soporific scent, and with each slow breath, he felt his thoughts, which had already grown quiet, begin to thin even further, becoming as transparent and slow-moving as clouds on a windless day. The rhythmic pulsing of the light seemed to synchronize with his own heartbeat, which grew slower, steadier, and calmer than he could ever remember it being. The combination of the enveloping scent and the gentle rhythmic light was incredibly powerful. It bypassed the thinking mind entirely, communicating directly with a deeper, more peaceful part of his being. There were no questions to ask, no meanings to decipher. There was only the experience itself, the soft light, the sweet air, the feeling of complete safety and peace. It was as if the dell itself was breathing, and he was breathing with it, a part of its gentle, living rhythm. A sense of profound gratitude washed over him, a simple, quiet thankfulness for the existence of such a place. He felt a deep appreciation for the flowers, for their silent nightly gift of light and scent. He felt thankfulness for the path that had led him here, and for the deep, deep quiet that allowed for such wonders to be noticed. It was a feeling of contentment so pure and simple that it felt like coming home to a part of himself he had forgotten existed. He did not fight the gentle drowsiness that began to settle over him. He welcomed it as a friend. His limbs felt heavy in the most pleasant way, and his mind was a calm, clear pool, reflecting only the soft, pulsing light of the Somnus Flora, here in the heart of the third sanctuary, surrounded by a light that seemed born of peace and a scent that promised rest. He felt himself drifting, not toward sleep just yet, but toward its serene and welcoming borderland, a place of perfect tranquility. Chapter 4. The Basin of Stillness. He did not know if he had dozed for a moment or merely drifted in a state of deep reverie. But when Phelan opened his eyes again, the soft light of the Flora seemed to illuminate a new path forward. This one was marked by flat, smooth stones that led out of the Dell and toward a low, circular wall of dark, polished stone. A profound silence emanated from beyond the wall, a quiet so deep it seemed to have a gentle, calming weight. He rose and followed the path, arriving at what he knew must be the very heart of the sanctuaries. He had come to a wide, circular basin, open to the sky, where the last of the evening's light was a soft, deep indigo. The basin was paved with the same dark, smooth stone as the low wall surrounding it, and in its center lay a perfectly still, circular pool of water. This was the Basin of Stillness, and the pool held the Waters of Repose. Here, all the gentle magic of the valley seemed to converge and find its purest expression. The air was filled with the faint, sweet scent of the distant Flora. The ground beneath his feet hummed with the faintest echo of the Resonant Stones, and the silence was absolute. The water in the pool was so clear and so perfectly still that it was like a pane of dark, polished glass, flawlessly reflecting the first few stars that had appeared in the darkening sky. There was no ripple, no current, no movement at all. It was an image of perfect, liquid tranquility, a sight that instantly quieted the last lingering whispers of Phelan's mind. The world seemed to hold its breath in this place. He felt an irresistible pull to approach the water's edge. He knelt on the cool, smooth stone, the solidness of it a comforting anchor. He gazed into the pool's dark, reflective surface, seeing not his own reflection, but the reflection of the peaceful sky above. It was as if he were looking down into a deep well of stars. The sight was so simple and yet so profoundly wondrous that it filled him with a sense of gentle awe. Slowly, hesitantly, he reached out and dipped the tips of his fingers into the water. The sensation was extraordinary. The water did not feel wet in the usual way. Instead, it felt impossibly soft and smooth, like cool flowing silk. But the true magic was what happened next. A feeling of utter peace spread from his fingertips up his arm and through his entire body. It was a sensation of comfort and weightlessness, as if some unseen burden had been lifted not just from his shoulders, but from his very spirit. More wondrous still was the effect on his mind. As the feeling of lightness spread, all thought simply ceased. There was no effort, no struggle. The quiet stream of inner observation, the gentle noticing of his surroundings, even that fell away, leaving behind a state of pure, serene being. There was only the present moment, the feeling of the cool stone beneath his knees, the soft air on his skin, and the profound silent peace emanating from the water. He let his fingers trail in the water for a long moment, watching as the gentle disturbance he created sent out slow, perfect rings that spread across the surface before vanishing back into stillness. Each ring seemed to carry away another layer of complexity, another faint memory of the world outside, leaving him feeling lighter, clearer, and more at peace than he had ever thought possible. This was the ultimate gift of the sanctuaries. Not just quiet or comfort or beauty, but a true and profound stillness of the soul. It was a peace that did not need to be sought or earned, but was simply there to be received, a natural state of being that the Basin helped one to remember. He felt a harmony between himself and the place, as if the stillness of the water now resided within him, a calm, clear pool at the very center of his being. Chapter 5. The Embrace of Deepest Rest. Phelan slowly drew his hand from the Waters of Repose, the feeling of serene lightness lingering like a pleasant memory. As he rose to his feet, he noticed a small alcove set into the far wall of the basin, a space he hadn't seen before. Within it, almost hidden in the soft darkness, was a simple wooden cot, little more than a low frame, but laid with what looked like the thickest, softest wool blankets he had ever seen, their texture looking as inviting as a welcoming hug. There was no question in his mind. This was an invitation. The final sanctuary was not a place to be observed, but one to be fully inhabited. He walked toward the cot, his movement slow and deliberate, his entire being suffused with the deep calm of the basin. The air in the alcove was cool and still, and it carried the mingled sense of clean wool, old stone, and the faint perfume of the Somnus Flora from the nearby Dell. It was the scent of pure, unadulterated peace. He sat on the edge of the cot, and the blankets were every bit as soft as they appeared, yielding gently under his weight. He swung his legs up and lay back, pulling the topmost blanket over him. It was surprisingly heavy, not in an oppressive way, but with a gentle, grounding weight that felt like a reassuring hand resting upon him. He rested his head on the simple pillow, which seemed to be stuffed with soft leaves that rustled faintly and released a clean, earthy scent. Lying there, cocooned in softness and warmth, Phelan gazed out from his alcove. His view was of the Basin of Stillness, the perfect dark mirror of the pool, reflecting a sky now filled with 1,000 gently shining stars. The low, resonant hum of the distant stones was a deep, steadying presence beneath the silence, and the air he breathed was the slow, rhythmic exhalation of the entire valley. All the gentle gifts of the sanctuaries were here, gathered to hold him in their collective, peaceful embrace. His body felt wonderfully heavy, anchored to the cot by a pleasant, restful gravity. His limbs were loose and completely at ease, free of any tension. His breathing was slow and even, a quiet tide rising and falling in his chest without any effort at all. His mind, already cleared by the waters of repose, remained a vast, empty space of quiet contentment. There was nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to be but here, now, in this perfect moment of peace. A final soft wave of gratitude washed through him. He felt thankful for his tired feet that had carried him here, for his weary heart that had sought this peace, and for this incredible place that offered it so freely. He closed his eyes, not to shut out the world, but to better feel the deep internal quiet he had found. The image of the still, star-filled water remained behind his eyelids, a perfect symbol of the calm within him. He felt himself standing on the very edge of sleep. It was not a sudden drop, but a slow, gentle slope into a deep, soft darkness. He felt himself letting go, surrendering completely to the safety and serenity of the alcove. The last thing he was aware of was the feeling of the weighted blanket, the steady, grounding hum of the valley, and the deep, abiding sense that he was finally, truly at rest. He drifted off, sinking into a profound, dreamless, and utterly restorative sleep, held safely in the heart of the sanctuaries.